After 19 years in a coma, this boy wakes up, and this is what he says. Upon waking up, he gazed around in confusion, lost and disoriented. He woke up in a hospital bed. Approaching him, the nurse observed his condition as he uttered his first words after 19 years in a coma. This story is about a boy named Terry who woke up after 19 years in a coma. But before this story, let us share with you the story of Manira. Manira emerged from a 27-year coma. Experiencing a coma is a severe situation with potential long-lasting effects. Typically, a coma only lasts a few weeks, so the stories you are going to hear today are really rare. Manira, an Emirati woman, resided in Al Ain, a small city in Abu Dhabi. One day, the school bus could not pick up her son, Omar, so she chose to drive him to school. She hopped into the car with her brother-in-law and her son and headed to the school. Omar was just 4 years old then. While heading back, the vehicle crashed into a school bus. Manira's brother-in-law was behind the wheel, while she sat in the back with Omar. When she saw the accident coming, she quickly grabbed little Omar and held him securely in her arms to shield him, which turned out to be very helpful. However, as a result, she experienced the full force of the crash. She suffered a serious brain injury due to the accident, while Omar only had minor bruising. After the crash, Omar managed to get out of the car, then gazed anxiously at his mother, who was unconscious. They lacked a phone, so they couldn't contact an ambulance right away. Therefore, Manira, who was 32 years old at the time, spent hours lying on the ground. She was unresponsive when the ambulance finally arrived, and they took her to the emergency room. She remained oblivious to her surroundings as she was unconscious the entire time, thus not reacting to anything. Doctors at the hospital identified a minimal state of consciousness and predicted her coma would last longer than anticipated. Manira received tube feeding and underwent regular physiotherapy to maintain her muscle strength and prevent further deterioration. The doctors thought she wouldn't regain consciousness due to the lack of progress in subsequent years. Nevertheless, Omar persisted. He made sure to visit his mother often, holding on to hope that she would one day awaken from her coma. Omar made a daily journey to visit his mother, spending hours with her. He observed her facial expressions closely whenever she was in discomfort, even though she couldn't communicate it verbally. He couldn't communicate with her during his visits, but she held great value to him, and that value only increased over time. He was confident that she would eventually awaken from her coma, which filled him with courage and hope. Omar made every effort to be with his mother daily. He struggled to secure a stable job, but his mother took precedence. She relied on him, and he made sure to always be by her side when she woke up. He consistently prioritized spending quality time with her. Over the course of her stay in the hospital, she was moved to a variety of hospitals and hospital rooms. As soon as the Crown Prince became aware of Manira's situation in 2017, he made a grant available to the family in order to fund a full rehabilitation program in Germany. Due to the fact that they had not specifically asked for it, the family was taken aback and they expressed their gratitude towards the prince for his kindness. Keeping Manira for an extended period of time in the hospital was already a difficult task for them. In order to improve the strength and the muscles in her limbs, Manira underwent surgery when she was in Germany. As a means of facilitating the development of her consciousness, the objective was to preserve her bodily health, and this objective was accomplished. It was obvious that she was aware of the others that were in the vicinity. However, the doctors discounted Omar's hope that she might regain consciousness and interact with him as wishful thinking, because they believed that it was extremely unlikely that she would accomplish either of those things. Over the course of several years, Manira had been in a coma, and then out of the blue, something unexpected occurred. Omar came to see Manira in Germany, and during their time together, Omar got in a fight with some of the hospital staff. Her response indicated that she believed her son was in trouble. Out of the blue, she started producing strange noises, which led Omar to get in touch with some medical professionals. Despite this, they regarded it as usual occurrence and hadn't noticed any problems with her. They came to an end of their chat at that point. However, Omar got up from his sleep by the sound of his name 3 days later. His mother shouted out his name, and he immediately recognized the voice that he had heard before. It was a day that he had been looking forward to for a very long time. The first words that came out of her mouth were his name, and he had been looking forward to it with great anticipation for years. Following the listing of Omar's name, she proceeded to list the names of her siblings. She was under the impression that these were the people that were present. It appeared as though she was reliving the accident as she yelled out loud. After she had been more comfortable, she was able to communicate with the doctors about the location of the pain she was experiencing, despite the fact that she had difficulty communicating adequately. As time went on, she became more and more conscious of her surroundings. During this time, 27 years had gone by, and her son Omar had already developed into a successful and mature adult. Throughout the years, she had been deprived of a great deal of opportunities. However, Omar had never failed to be there for her, and he was overjoyed that she had come back. He chatted extensively with her and prayed together with her, echoing his words. She enjoyed discussing topics that caught her attention. She relied heavily on her family for support and becoming more self-sufficient. Omar shared his mother's story with others to inspire them to persevere and provide unwavering support to their family members. Now let's begin with that story of Terry Wallace. Terry, who was 19 years old at the time, went into a coma. Due to the fact that he was involved in a car crash, he came away with extensive injuries. Apart from the sad event that took place, Terry was a young man who was full of life and in good health. He had already tied the knot and was in the process of creating a family. In the 6 weeks leading up to the crash, his wife had just recently given birth to their beautiful daughter. Terry had celebrated his birthday in April 1984, making him 19 years old by the time July rolled around. The tragedy took place on a little bridge in Arkansas where he was driving his pickup truck with a friend at the time. The pickup truck suddenly fell over the bridge and crashed without railing. This happened out of nowhere. In the following moment, the pickup truck went off the bridge and landed in an inverted position near the river. Although Terry was still breathing, his companion who had come along had passed away, and Terry had fallen unconscious. Unfortunately, Terry was still breathing. In the immediate aftermath of the arrival of the ambulance, he was taken to the hospital without delay. In spite of the fact that he remained conscious in the hospital, it wasn't until a year later that he had any signs of improvement could be detected. During that time period, the medical professionals had long since given up hope, assuming that his progress would only be temporary. At the time of the disaster, Terry's wife had recently begun the process of giving birth to their daughter. Over the course of time, the young lady never shared a single word with her father. As a consequence of that fact, she could only visit him in the hospital. She was unable to grow up with her father, having to go through experiences of not knowing her father must have been a peculiar one. During that 19 years that Terry was in a coma, there was a great advancement in technology. Unfortunately, he was unable to witness the development of his daughter during that time. When he awoke, he made the realization that he had a great deal of ground to cover. Nobody could ever say for definite whether it was not or even possible. How is it possible for someone to make up for time that they have lost over the course of 19 years? Because Terry's family was unable to afford physiotherapy for him while he was in a coma, he suffered from weakening in his muscles and limbs. When one is unable to move for a lengthy period of time, it is essential to keep up with their physical activity. His loved ones made it a point to pay him a visit at the hospital on a constant basis, and they did every single day for the past 19 years. They were not anticipating that he would regain consciousness again, and they were concerned that he would not make it. Despite the odds, a few people kept in their optimism, and Terry miraculously awoke in 2003. He blinked and glanced around, clearly puzzled. He found himself in an unfamiliar place, lying in a hospital bed. Approaching him, the nurse addressed his condition as he uttered his first words following his 19-year coma. His daughter had reached the age of 19, but he still saw himself as 19. For him, it felt like he was simply in that pickup truck. His initial utterance was "mother." Despite his physical limitations, Terry made a gradual recovery using only his mouth. All he had was a speech disorder from the accident. Terry's development piqued the interest of numerous scientists, leading them to conduct multiple brain scans. They were amazed at how he could speak right after such a long silence. Scientists and the media both expressed interest. Terry achieved legendary status in the scientific community and gained widespread fame. Reporters were often excited to interview him, and he even received invitations to appear on multiple talk shows. While in a coma, Terry's brain developed new connections. This was quite fascinating from a scientific perspective, and additional research was conducted to provide a thorough explanation. Due to Terry's extended coma, he will never be the same person, but the extended family is grateful to have him back home. Finally, his daughter had the opportunity to bond with her father. What do you think about this video? Let us know in the comment section below.